I'm Bree. I'm 21 years old, a senior in college, a writer, and a world traveler. So when the opportunity arose for me to take a travel writing course culminating in a trip to Spain, I, of course, jumped at it. Since graduating from high school, I've been to Paris, Rome, Budapest, Amsterdam, Antwerp, and Bruges. However, being a well-traveled college student isn't cheap, so suffice it to say that at the beginning of this trip, I was broke. Scratch that. I'm still broke, but I was determined to make the most of my trip. So I did what I do best. Got obsessive. Welcome to Spain by the Numbers, your comprehensive guide to frugally navigating yourself through one of the most diverse and beautiful countries in the world. Here's the breakdown. I was abroad 18 days. 3 of those were predominantly travel, 1 was in Frankfurt, Germany, and 14 were in Spain in various cities. For this trip, I packed 2 carry-on bags with 3 pieces of tech, plus chargers, and 5 outfits. Now let's talk budgets. I gave myself €416 for food, or about €26 per day, €51 for expenses, and €70 for gifts. For each day of my trip, I wrote down everything I bought, eventually organizing them into columns with the daily totals at the top to keep myself in check. Writing down what you buy immediately after doing so doesn't take very long and ensures that you're always on track with the money you could afford to burn. This is a video guide in 5 parts. Still with me? Excellent. Vámonos! Usually for a trip over 4 days, especially abroad, I would take my giant red behemoth of a suitcase, which, though rarely filled to the TSA-approved 50-pound maximum limit, it's still kind of a drag. So this time, I challenged myself to stick to carry-on items for the entire trip, both there and back. But surprisingly, it worked like a charm. I borrowed my mom's little carry-on suitcase for most of my stuff, but then I also brought a backpack. In addition to the bags I just showed you, I also slipped in this carry-around bag that my mom made for me right before the trip. And this, obviously, I didn't carry around in the airport. I just slipped it in with the other stuff so that I wouldn't have to carry around my backpack when I was just out wandering or on a day trip. For clothes, because it would be warm in Spain in the summer, I brought 3 versatile dresses, 1 pair of jean capris, 2 shirts, and 2 light cardigans. I let myself bring only 1 pair of shoes, my new black Toms, though I wish I'd gotten a pair of insoles because after 15 days of heavy walking, they weren't nearly as comfy as they were in the beginning. I also brought a mesh laundry bag, a set of pajamas, my aforementioned tech, my travel journal, and my 2 small bags of toiletries, 1 liquid and 1 not. Surprisingly, the TSA-approved quart-sized toiletries lasted me the entire trip and then some. I'm still actually using most of it. So, honestly, even though this doesn't look like much, it really is, if you're, not crazy. Toiletries quick tip. Don't bother bringing shampoo, as your hotel should provide it, but bring your own conditioner, as that's rarely provided by European hotel rooms. Folding quick tip. One way to pack in things a little bit tighter in your suitcase is to use the military fold technique, as seen here. At this point, it's important to note that other than the first 3 days I spent in Avila with just my friends Kelly and Margaret, for the majority of this trip I was traveling with my class, which in practical terms means that oftentimes I would get per diem for food or entire meals would be comped. For example, our hotel in Barcelona provided free breakfast, and our first night in Madrid with the class, our professors took us out to a 3-course meal. That being said, even with the per diem I was given on certain days, not every day, the food that I bought myself still fell under my €26 a day budget, or $35 a day in US dollars. And although I planned for having that much money per day for food, I only averaged about 16 euro a day, which is a full 10 euro less than what I expected to be spending. And also keep in mind that a lot of the food that went into calculating the 16 euro a day was things like gelato and juice. So honestly, I probably could have lived on much less if I hadn't have, splurged because I knew that I was still under budget. Here's the thing. If you spend more than 5 euro or even 3 euro on breakfast in Spain, you're either filthy rich or doing something wrong. Most days we found breakfast or desayuno for under 2.5 euro, which includes coffee and a pastry or toast or a tortilla. And we even found one place for the same price that also included a small glass of orange juice. Food quick tip. In Spain, a tortilla isn't a type of delicious flatbread used in burritos, but an egg and potato omelet. It's gluten-free and delicious. For lunch, keep your eyes peeled for the menu del dia, which usually includes 2 courses, dessert, and a drink, all for a fixed price. Although some places it's a little bit more expensive for the menu del dia, we found a lot of places that had it for 7 to 11 euro, which is really reasonable for that kind of meal. Or you could just order tapas, snacks, and those are pretty cheap as well. And in Spain, snacks doesn't mean like a handful of Cheetos or something, it means like a sandwich. Food quick tip number 2. If your hotel has a mini fridge, use it. Oftentimes buying a couple days worth of meat, cheese, fruit, etc. will save you a lot of money in the long run. One last thing before we move on. In most European countries, agua is not free. In fact, they charge handsomely for it, and sometimes you can get a glass of wine for much cheaper than you can get a glass of water, so keep that in mind when ordering drinks. Expenses are anything you either don't plan for or you don't consider a gift or food. This includes things like transportation, maps, and tickets to events and museums. Before I left on my trip, money was a tad tighter than I'd initially expected because all of the money that I calculated myself having was coming to me via paychecks that would not be sent until after I got back from my trip, so I almost didn't budget for expenses. That was silly. Always budget for expenses. I spent about 93 euro on expenses, most of which was, again, covered by per diem. If I didn't have that per diem, I probably would have spent under my budget, but because I had it and I had a lot of leftover food budget, I figured I could give myself a little bit of leeway in this category. The best things that I bought that fell under expenses are as follows. First, a sweater for 7.95 euro. Remember those cute little 5 outfits I brought for my summer trip to Spain? Yeah, those weren't too useful when the wind chill factor in Avila made the already chilly weather like 20 degrees lower in temperature. I'm not kidding, look at this wind. Insane. 2, a ticket to the wall in Avila. This was definitely the best attraction that we went to. Basically, it was a walled city and you could walk along a significant portion of it if you paid 350 euro, which I got with my student discount. It gave us such a cool view of the city. We could see the countryside, we could see the rooftops, we could see everything. And it kind of started a trend for the rest of the trip where in every city we went to, we made sure to see it from above. And I honestly think that that is the best way to see a city. Third, a train ticket round trip to Tarragona for 15 euro. This was probably the best day trip we went on. It was just Kelly and Margaret and I again. We're a pretty good threesome for traveling. And most everything we did in that town was free, like the ancient Roman aqueduct that we hiked up to. Well, technically it was free if you didn't count the 3 euro bus ticket it took to get there, but I really don't. Also, we went into the beach and got to hang out by the Mediterranean, and that was also free. It was a little bit cold, so Kelly and Margaret couldn't swim like they were expecting to, but we all got to dip our feet in and just generally have a good time. Expenses quick tip. Bringing your student ID card will help you get into museums and events for a reduced price usually, and sometimes even free. You're always going to want to bring a part of your trip home with you. That's an inevitability. But that doesn't mean that you have to drag your bank account down with your sentimentality. If you remember, I budgeted myself about €70 or $100 in US for gifts. I ended up spending about €80 because of per diem and also because I still had a lot of money left over from my food budget. If you'll think back to part 2 of this video. Nope, it's part 3. Ha, just kidding. Mostly I bought things from museum gift shops and other little tourist shops, and I know what you're thinking. But tourist shops are so... Look, at the end of the day, tourist shops are cheap and trinkets are what people expect. All they want is to know that you're thinking about them while you're off traveling the world. And why do you need to spend tons of money on a gift when a little keychain that says Madrid on it is probably just as good? If you're really against tourist shops, find things like artisan fairs and outside flea markets, which are a little bit more local and unique, but still aren't super expensive. Gifts quick tip. If you're looking to use carry-on luggage for your return trip, make sure to stick to smaller, lighter gifts and gifts that will definitely fit within the dimensions of your suitcase. That means no large pieces of street art or mugs and things like that. If the sound quality in this segment is weird, it's because I can't figure out how to turn the swamp cooler off, but I have nowhere else to film, so this is what you're gonna get, sorry. But this section is for my kind of final miscellaneous travel tips and thoughts. First, do your research. You'll manage your time a lot better while you're on your trip, and you'll be able to look up free attractions you might not have otherwise known about. For example, the Reina Sofia Museum in Madrid is free on Sundays. Second, and speaking of museums, most museums and older cathedrals won't let you take video or pictures inside of them. Now, I'm not saying that you should blatantly ignore posted signs. I'm just saying that, hypothetically, if you wanted to not pay for a postcard of your favorite painting in your favorite museum, you could hypothetically click on my face to take you to a video that totally doesn't exist about how to take illicit photos within places that don't let you take photos. Third, bathrooms. Oftentimes, it's really difficult to find public restrooms in Europe, so to be safe, always go to the bathroom when you know for a fact that there is a bathroom available for you to use. This means going to the bathroom in your hotel before you leave for the day, going to the bathroom after you eat at a restaurant, that kind of thing, because there is no guarantee you're gonna find one for the next 6 hours. Also, keep in mind that sometimes you have to pay a couple euro cents to €1 to use a restroom if it's public, so always make sure to carry around a couple of cents with you. Why are you so loud? And finally, fourth, don't be afraid to wander. Like J.R.R. Tolkien once said, not all those who wander are lost, and oftentimes, just by aimlessly wandering around whatever new city you're in, you're gonna find the coolest things. Once we accidentally found our way into Avila's town hall and found an exhibit of these amazing glass sculptures. It was free, and we had no idea what it was until we got home to the hotel and looked it up. And there you have it. This has been Spain by the Numbers. Thank you so much for watching, and on a slightly more personal, unscripted note, Spain has been one of the most rewarding experiences I have ever had, and I'd even go so far as to say that it's the best place I've been while abroad. And if you remember from the beginning of this video, I've gotten around. I think it kind of came down to a combination of things, one being that this was the least structured trip I've ever taken, and it's also been the longest, so both of those things added up to more exploration and less landmark to landmark, connect the dots. The biggest thing I wanted you to take out of this video, you being whoever is watching, whether it's, my travel writing professor Brent who is grading me, or people like me who are broke but want to travel the world, budgeting doesn't have to make your trip less fun. I was serious when I said that obsessively writing down every single thing you purchase really doesn't take that much time. It actually made the trip much easier on me because I wasn't constantly stressed out about purchasing things that were slightly more expensive because I knew exactly where I stood with my money at all times. Budgeting shouldn't take away fun from your trip. It should enable that fun, and it should force you or challenge you to go find things that you wouldn't ordinarily look for if you weren't thinking about money. So happy travels, and I hope that you, whoever's watching this, will have just as amazing of a time abroad as I did.